Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where business owners share their wisdom. It's short and to the point because we respect people's time and because we know transforming possibility happens fast and it leads to lasting results. So let's get to it. Question number one, in a few sentences, David, tell me who you are and what you do.
Entrepreneur, podcaster, and speaker.
That might have been the shortest answer.
I always figure less is more. I'm happy to fill in more if you want.
I love it. No, I absolutely love it. I often say, simple is brilliant, and you made me laugh. I know that is the shortest answer I've ever had. Very succinct, and I couldn't love it more. Thank you. Question number two, what's the best thing about being in business?
There is no limit to growth. When you're an employee, you are very limited because whatever your compensation is, if your compensation goes up, let's say 10% more than cost of living, you're doing really well. In a business, you could double your net income very quickly if you're doing well. On the flip side, your income can go down if you're in business. But if but I think the upside has much greater potential as an entrepreneur than it does as an employee. And going back to your first question, I spent 28 years as an employee before I became an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 14, and I would not trade being an entrepreneur for anything, especially at this point.
Couldn't love it more. I often hear freedom, but I love that you just highlighted unlimited or limitless potential, because I've not heard that as much as I would expect. So great points. I absolutely love it.
Interesting. I'm surprised you haven't heard it.
I mean, I talk about it all the time, but it's great to hear other people talk about the same thing. It's a beautiful thing. So, I mean, I hear it on occasion, but rarely. It's more about freedom, though, is what I hear. So thank you. I appreciate that. Question number three. We hear from other business owners, and even during this time, I like to say this, the time we're recording this, we're still going through COVID. We likely will for a while. But especially in the digital space, people are growing. We hear that sometimes they're getting so much business that the chaos sometimes is causing some overwhelm in their business. Can you share me just your thoughts on that?
I have a couple thoughts. First of all, this is a conversation that I've had with many clients when they're struggling. I ask them to think through how they would handle too much business, which is really hard for them to do when they're struggling to pay their bills. Because one of the things I have seen happen is when something shifts and all of a sudden they're doing well, sometimes they're doing really well really quickly and they don't have the infrastructure to support it. So it's kind of like, it's a good problem to have. But on the other hand, it's sort of like you want to have a fire drill when there's no fire, so that when the fire happens, you don't have to think about it. You know what to do. So the same thing with building your infrastructure. You want to know, what is it you actually believe you will need if you are really successful, so that you can take advantage of the opportunity. And there's one other thing as well, which is, especially in the digital space, go narrow, go deep. So one of the things that I've seen happen to lots of entrepreneurs is when they start getting an increase in business, it may be coming from multiple sources, and it may be coming for multiple offerings. And our brains are not wired to be able to jump quickly from one thing to another. One of the things I learned as a podcaster is I do a better job if I do all my recordings for multiple weeks at a time, all in one day. I kind of set myself up at the beginning of the day to do recordings, then I do them one after the other. Takes a lot of energy to do, sometimes I'll do 5 or 6, and that takes a lot of energy, but I don't have to go jumping back and forth. When I first started podcasting, I would record on a Tuesday morning, on a Thursday late afternoon, middle of the day Monday. It was like whenever I could schedule a time with a guest. And I realized that was not it just wasn't effective. So um, think about what is it that you have the unique, especially if it's a digital business that's small. So it's like primarily one person, which is a lot of these businesses. Think about what you have, a unique set of skills and experiences that you bring to the table where you can provide value that there aren't too many other people that can provide the same kind of value in the same way. Like, some people call it niching down, but right. So you got to find like your narrow sweet spot that you're really good at. And if you do and you focus just on that, what ends up happening is you're repeating your process over and over again. So you get really good at your process. It gets easier for you. And as long as there's a market for it, you probably don't need that big a market to go deep and start making more and more money. People think, well, I can do, let's say, I I can provide marketing services. Well, everybody needs marketing services. So yeah, you could provide marketing services to billions of businesses, but you probably aren't capable of supporting billions of businesses. However, if you specialize, let's say, in um, Facebook ads for companies that have a $10,000 per month ad budget, right? That's really narrow and specific. And if you get really good at that, um, you will be able to make more money with a lot less overwhelm than by just saying you're a general marketer.
Love it. I couldn't love that more. It's extremely valuable advice. And I love that you said narrow and deep, but you didn't start out with niching because I think probably what we've both found is a lot of people just get this aversion to niching, or they're like, oh, but I can do so many things. You, like I, have probably heard that over and over and over again. So I love that you described it and the way you did. So thank you very much. Let's get to question number 4. What other successful business owners, like yourself, of course, David, should be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast?
Well, I have two suggestions for you. One is a heart-centered, values-based financial planner who is really good at helping um, particularly women that are in the, I would say, mid to late stage of their career, where they've had a high pressure job that they feel like they've been tied to, and they're looking to create more freedom in their lives, do the kinds of things that they've only dreamt about doing, and they're afraid that even though they may have resources, they may have made a good bit of money, they're afraid that they won't be able to handle the shift financially. Her name is Laura Rotter, and she does a remarkable job of helping people um, navigate that transition. So the financial planning and management piece is one component of what she does, but she does this other piece that is so beneficial to people that are struggling with trying to conceive of how they would make a transition, because the money part is important, but you actually have to tie it with the values clarification that you're going through in your life. So she's one. And a second person is Gary Ireland, who is also a friend of mine. He's an employment attorney, and he specializes in helping executives in transition. So people that are leaving a job or entering a job, he can help them make more money through the transition. And in particular, if you're thinking about um, how to um, how to go from employment when your job is being terminated to entrepreneurship, he can be really helpful in getting you set up with not only the right package to give you as much of a financial buffer as possible when you start your business, but he also can help on the business side to get you started. And he's a great guy also with great values, and I'd be happy to connect you with both of them.
Love it. I absolutely love it. I love how you described exactly what they do. That's great, engaging, so that everybody listening knows exactly who to reach out to, when, and how. So that's great. I love it. Let's get to some wisdom, David. What piece of wisdom would you share with other business owners? I know you have a lot of it. So let's get down to some brass
Sure.
tacks.
So yeah. So Brad, I may have alluded to a little bit of my background that has caused me to focus on a particular niche. As I mentioned, I was an employee for 28 years. I've been an entrepreneur for 14. I mentioned what both Laura and Gary do. It's connected to what I do, and the kind of content we produce on the two podcasts that I host, Smashing the Plateau and Going Solo, which is for high achieving professionals that have deep knowledge in a particular discipline. If they are starting their own consulting or coaching business following a late career job loss, they can really do wonders in providing great results for their clients. They often struggle in building their own consulting and coaching business because it's not a skill set that they were trained in. It's not something they had to do in their jobs. One of the areas where I see they often have had no responsibility before is marketing and sales. And as you know, and I know, without marketing and sales, there's no business. It's at best you may be running a hobby. So we specialize on helping people with consulting and coaching businesses go through the transition, if they're going through the transition, or if they've already got a consulting or coaching business that's making money, yet they feel like they're overwhelmed. They feel like their business is running them rather than the other way around. We help them as well. But I would say one of the things that I have come to learn for this particular population is, especially when your job has been terminated and you want to get your own business off the ground, um, you may feel a lot of pressure to get it started as quickly as possible. If you're looking for another job, like your income when you lost your job went from 100% to zero. If your income is primarily from your job, if you get another job, your income goes from zero back up to 100 the first day you start work. When you start a business, that's not true. Your income does not go from zero to 100 in one day. If you're lucky, it'll do that in 2 years. So even though you may be anxious and you may feel pressure from friends and family and colleagues to get going and start making money, you actually have suffered a trauma, right? If you were in your job for a long time or in your field for a long time as an employee, your identity and your ego and your self-worth is is very tied to your profession, and it may be tied to the job title and the company that you last worked for. So your identity has taken a major hit. Your ego has taken a major hit. You have suffered trauma. You're going to have to go through, believe it or not, stages of grief to get over the job loss. The most important thing you can do is take some time to deal with this before you start planning what you're going to focus on in your business. And I know that may be hard. This may be a hard message for people to accept, but if you can manage it financially, and you can take anywhere between 1 and 12 months to just decompress, do some self-reflection, get somebody to help you kind of put your own emotional and mental house in order, so you know really clearly by the time you finish that process what it is you really want to spend your time on for your active days going forward, perhaps for the rest of your life, and you know what you're really competent at doing and who you want to serve, that will set the stage for you to do much better when you start focusing on business strategy. So that time, some people call it time off. I don't, it's not time off. It's time to actually work on you as opposed to working on your business or your clients. And that is really critical.
I love what you just shared. This is a very different take than a lot of people have. We hear a lot of, jump hard and fast and take action and take massive action and all these other things. Like, I absolutely love what you shared. And I would go back to just between successes, right? But but it's a marathon, not a sprint. And use that time between successes responsibly is what I part of what I heard you share. There's a lot more than that, but part of what I heard you share. That is great advice. I absolutely love it.
You know, Brad, there are forward-thinking companies now that have created sabbatical policies. They want employees to take a sabbatical every so often because the the mind works best when it has time to reflect. Like you think about um, many years ago, some humans created the concept of working 6 days a week and taking one day for rest. Why did they do that? Right? We're perfectly capable of working 7 days a week. Way too many people do. Um, there's something about what happens when you work 6 days and you take one day to pause and reflect. And it, think about how it's also often tied to something spiritual. Not everybody considers herself or himself, quote unquote, religious, but the whole that whole concept of taking time off is very much tied to spirituality, whether you're believing in sort of the Western definition of God or not. And then there are many other definitions as well. But this whole idea of time off is really important.
100%. Deeply rooted in our souls, in our spirituality. I love it.
It
Let's.
makes us better people.
It, I agree. I couldn't agree more. There's no way I could agree more. Let's shift gears because I believe, David, we could probably talk about business for quite a while, but there's a reason why we're in business, and it's part of this, working to live, not living to work, and some of that freedom as entrepreneurs. What's the most fun vacation you've ever had?
Um, well, my wife and I had a fun one in January of 2020, which was we took a few days. I live in New York. We took a few days and we went to New Orleans, and just no agenda, just hung out. You know, took in some of the music, lots of good restaurants, and boy, was that timely because we
No
came
kidding.
back and we've been pretty much sitting at home ever since.
No kidding. Talk about picking the perfect time for that, right? Right before all this hit. And I love New Orleans. I have actually been there maybe 8 times. Get out of the touristy areas. There's so much history down there. I love that. I
Oh
hope
my
you got to
God,
see
yeah, it
some of
was
that, the
great.
art and the culture, and that's a great place to go, especially before all, all this what we're in now happened. David, thanks so much for being on. I appreciate the value that you dropped and what you do. What is the website or social media, or what's the best way to reach out to you when people hear this and they're like, wow, this guy is knowledgeable and it sounds great. I want to connect with them. How do they connect with you?
Smashingtheplateau.com is the repository and the sort of the central hub for all of our content. You can get my information there. There's a form you can use to contact me. I'd be happy to set up time to speak with anyone who has questions about some of the things we've talked about. As I mentioned, I've been podcasting for a while. We have over 600 episodes between the two shows, with lots of really great information. You can spend hours and hours listening to free stuff to your heart's content. It's all about entrepreneurship and leadership. But if that's your thing, there's lots there.
Love it. Absolutely love it. This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where business owners are making 5, 6, 7, 8. It's really not all about the money. It's about sharing their wisdom and sharing it globally to create impact. Thanks for joining us.